Diamondlot, The Diamond Squad. By Eric Waugh. Chapter 7. Trump Card. The Shadow Beast continued its rampage, which was beginning to scare off some of the audience. Some made their way to the exit, fearing the situation would only get worse. But despite the fury of the shadow monster, Charlotte and Nathan continued to watch the battle. Nathan asked if he should intervene, but Charlotte shook her head, telling him that the battle was not yet over. Nathan was in disbelief seeing the situation the gladiators were in, but Charlotte calmly told him to continue watching the games. Back on the battlefield, Chelsea and Bella had narrowly escaped a brutal assault from the shadow creature, and all their injuries were starting to pile up. It wouldn't take much for their enemy to end the match. The shadow beast began to charge in to take out both the girls, but midway it sensed something was wrong. Looking behind to where Jet was, it saw that Rylin had eluded its senses and was within striking distance of Jet. Seeing Jet in danger, it attempted to turn around and rush to his aid, but Chelsea threw her lasso and it wrapped around the shadow beast's arm. Alone, Chelsea wasn't enough to pull the beast back, but when Bella grabbed onto the rope, the shadow had a difficult time struggling to break loose. Combined, they knew they could hold the creature down for a couple minutes. All their hopes were now placed on the defending champion, Rylin. With a sword in his dominant hand, he walked up to Jet, who had his hands on his head, doing his best to repress all the negative emotions. Rylin felt a bit of sympathy for him, but he couldn't let the opportunity slip away. Right here, he could end the source of the Shadow Beast's power, and once again he would be named the champion of the Gladiator Games. He raised the sword and swung it down, but midway he halted his attack as someone stood in front of Jet. Ava had appeared and refused to move when Rylin demanded her to step aside or he would consider her an enemy. Again she stood her ground. Leaving him no choice, Rylin swung his sword again, but he stopped as Ava held out a drawing before his eyes. It was a simple drawing of a boy defending a girl who was being bullied by others. Seeing the drawing brought back memories and calmed Rylin down. None of this made sense to Rylin, so he asked for clarity. Ava explained that deep down, Rylin was a good person. If he were to take the life of the innocent boy, he would never be the same again. He could possibly turn into a monster, the very thing he was trying to destroy. Rylin fell to his knees as he knew Ava was right, but he was also heavily conflicted as he was clueless as to how they were going to defeat the shadow monster without hurting Jet. Ava smiled and told Rylin to leave everything in her hands. As Ava was making her way to Jet, Rylin could hear shouting coming from behind him. It was Bella and Chelsea who were trying to warn them that they could no longer restrain the enraged shadow. The shadow broke free, knocking Chelsea and Bella off balance. It was dashing to where Ava was heading, but Rylin quickly jumped in to stall for time. Ava was now standing beside Jet, who was still in a power struggle with his mind. She lowered herself and placed one of her hands on his shoulder. Instantly, Jet felt a sudden calmness through his body. With her soothing voice, she let the boy know that he could rest and there was no longer any need to fight. With those words, the negative emotions began to leave Jet's mind. Behind Ava was the hand of the enraged shadow that was inches away from crushing her, but it was now frozen, and slowly it began to deteriorate as Jet's mind was clearing, and now he was able to rest. Once the shadows had disappeared, everyone in the audience, including announcer Kevin, was left in a state of confusion. That was when Queen Victoria finally revealed herself to Kevin and told him to announce the end of the Gladiator Games. Kevin declared the winners of the Gladiator Games to be Chelsea, Ava, Rylin, and Bella, and the spotlight was upon them. However, Bella and Chelsea were still trying to figure out what had just happened. But they wouldn't have much time to think, as appearing before them was Zoe, followed by a small group of the kingdom's elite guards. She told them that the queen would like to speak to them. Although she said it in a kind manner, the sight of the elite guards behind her made it seem more threatening. Without much of a choice, the four made their way to meet with the queen.